Today I will discuss about AWS API Gateway. That is one of the service of AWS, and if you are working with any microservice architecture project, then API Gateway you must need to implement API Gateway in your project, because using API Gateway you can make your multiple endpoints, convert your multiple endpoints into a single endpoint. So you will provide a single endpoint to your front end team, so they do not have to mess with the multiple endpoints for your multiple services. They only use single endpoint of your API gateway, and they can interact with your multiple microservices. So before starting this video, I want from you to please like, share and subscribe if you like this video. And if you have already opened API gateway, then you can find the link in the recent visited items, that is API gateway, CloudWatch, Lambda, all the services which you have already opened here. So if you have not opened it, then you can click on the service here, click on all services in alphabetical orders. All the services will be listed, and you can click on API gateway here. In the right side top you can see a create API button. Click on this to create a API, and there are choose an API type like HTTP API, WebSocket API, REST API, again REST API. I am explaining you what are these HTTP API and REST API. These are look similar. These two, REST API is for this, private is for create a REST API that is only accessible from within a VPC. If you are in a VPC server, then you use this REST API, and the difference between this REST API and this HTTP API I will tell you. And before this there is a one more WebSocket API. If you are creating a WebSocket API for your microservice architecture project, then you can build it from here. So let's see the difference between HTTP API, which one you choose to create your API gateway endpoint. So here come to this link, AWS documentation, choosing between REST API and HTTP APIs. REST APIs and HTTP APIs are both RESTful API products. REST APIs supports more features than HTTP API, while HTTP APIs are designed with minimal features so that they can be offered at a lower price. Choose REST API if you need features such as API keys, per client throttling, request validation, AWS WF integration or private API endpoints. Choose HTTP API if you don't need the features included with REST API. If your project needs more features, then must go with the REST API protocol instead of HTTP API. If you have required minimal features in your project, then you can go with the HTTP API protocol, so it will cost you lesser than REST APIs. So here are the features which you can get in REST API and HTTP API. Edge optimized you will get in REST API, not in HTTP API. Regional, private, security purpose only you will get in HTTP API, that is mutual TLS authentication. And in authorization, only JSON web token you won't get in REST API. Rest of the things you will get in both the API. Only Amazon resource policies will not in HTTP API. API management. These are the basic information I want to give you, which one you choose for your project, that is REST API and HTTP API. That will be based on your requirements of your project. If your project is very much advanced, then you must go with the REST API that is recommended for you. Okay, now in this tutorial I will explain you the REST API tutorial. I have already uploaded HTTP API, how can we create API gateway endpoint with HTTP API. I will provide you the link in description. You can go and watch that video if you want to make your API gateway in HTTP API. In this video I will explain you with REST API, that is develop a REST API where you gain complete control over the request and response along with API management capabilities. For this to create a REST API, click on build. select whether you would like to create a REST API or WebSocket API. That is REST. In new API here, API name I am giving here test API, the API gateway name. You can provide, it is optional description, you can provide it here or not, it's your choice. I am providing it the same as the test API description. Endpoint regional edge optimized private, I am providing here it is regional. Click on the create API button to create your API. In the resource part, create resources as per your multiple services. I will create here two main resource which differs to a different microservice. So here I will create a login service resource and a billing service resource, as I have two microservice. So the endpoint is same, so that's why we have to create two resources to differ the endpoint for two microservices. First I will create a login service, create resource login service, choose this enable core enable API gateway course, so it will not raise a issue of course issue, and create resource. Okay, now inside this resource create a proxy resource, so all your child routes will be handled by this resource only, login service. Because if you have 100 of routes in your single microservice architecture, then if you are not creating here proxy routes, then you will have to also create 100 routes over here. So if you want to handle single resource, handle all your child routes of your service, then must create a proxy resource inside this main service resource. So I am creating here create resource, that is a proxy resource, naming it as proxy, and here I will create a proxy plus. Click on this and enable API gateway course. As you can see, this proxy plus resource is created over here, and in any method click on HTTP proxy, and here you have to provide your endpoint URL. Okay, that suppose there is this endpoint URL I have, must provide proxy, this missing proxy if you have proxy URL. Now HTTP proxy, now click on the save. This login service is created, and if you want to access this from URL, you have, if you have make any changes in your API gateway, then you must have to deploy this deploy API. In deploy API you have to create a stage. I am creating a dev stage, and click on deploy. So it will create a dev name, dev stage, and it will deploy also. So coming to this dev stage, you can find the endpoint URL over here, login service, and in get you can see this URL. Copy this endpoint from login service to HTTPS to login service and paste it over here, and hit this URL. Here is a coming missing authentication token. Now copy this path. After this here paste it after this login service, and now press enter. you can see this route is working, as here I am accessing this path with IP, that is the project, the server where my project exists. Now this route I am accessing with the AWS API gateway, and I can get the response. If I change the path, like v1 register generate password, that also I can access this. Yeah, I can also access this route also. If I put any random things in path, then it will go to the 404 error. Okay, this will not work if your path is not correct. So my API gateway endpoint route for login service is ready, but here I want to make some changes, like if there are in stage, click on stage, click on dev, I have go to first resource and go to any, and in integration part you can see I have endpoint URL I put that is hard coded, and I have to use this. If that is hard coded, then for every staging you have if you have 4 stages, then if you, in the later part, if you, any endpoint is changes, any IP changes, then you have to change everywhere. So create a stage variable and use that variable, so if later any changes come, then you have to make changes in stage variable only. So here coming to the stages, in dev, click on dev, here is stage variables. Create one stage variable, that is dev base URL. Okay, and put your endpoint here, that is copy this things and paste it here. Now save it with clicking on tick mark. It is saved stage variables. Now copy this dev base URL and use this stage variable in our integration part of this route. So you can in integration, click on integration request to edit this, click here and paste it here, dollar stage variables dot dev base URL. Now click it over here. Here error is coming, invalid HTTP endpoint specified for URI. So in endpoint URL there is a must HTTP in this text box, like HTTP. In this way you have to put your endpoint over here. So for if I put here HTTP over here, then you must remove this HTTP from the stage variables. I have saved it and I will remove it HTTP from the stage variables. So for that you have to go to the stage, click on dev and go to stage variables and remove this HTTP from here, because I have used this HTTP in the integration part. So now save it, and as I have make changes here, so I have to deploy this API again. Deploy API, select stage, that is dev, and now deploy. I have deployed the API which I have created. I have made changes and refresh this API again. You can see this API is still working, as I have used stage variables. These APIs are still working. So this is my first resource. This is my first stage, means first service route, login service, and this will handle all your child routes of your microservice. Now I am creating one more route, more service. Click on the slash icon. Now click on create resource. This process is same as the earlier one which I have shown you. So I have created here billing service. Click on the API gateway course, create resource. Inside this resource, create one more resource, that is proxy route. Proxy, named it as proxy. Here give proxy plus. Click on enable API gateway course, and here if this route is proxy, then configure as proxy resource. Click this tick box, create resource. For billing service, proxy route is also created, and we have to integrate. We have to only make integration part for this route. Click on HTTP proxy and enter your endpoint. Here my endpoint is different for different service, so this 3003 port is my another service. So copy this, okay, and don't forget to put proxy after this endpoint, as it is a proxy URL. Now save it. Okay, yeah, that API is created, and deploy this API, deploy API with new stage. No, I am deploying this billing service in a dev stage only. So deploy API, I have to use go to resource, I have to use the staging variable. So here go and go to integration part, and this endpoint for another service I will use this IP, but we have to create another stage variable. So first go to stages, go to dev, stage variables, add one more stage variable for another endpoint. Here I am naming it wrong, that is dev base URL. Actually here the name will be the service, like login service IP, login service endpoint, and here I am giving you the billing service URL, and copy this 3003 port, and save it. Now edit the edit this and named it as billing login service, because these are the service endpoints. Login service, named it correctly so you will understand it better. 3001 port number is for login service, 3003 port number is for billing service. Now go to resource and go to the login service, any go to integration request and change here dev to login service. Now click on tick icon and go to billing service. In integration part, change this IP to the stage variable, whatever I have written there, that is dollar stage variables dot billing service underscore URL. Okay, as I have made changes in this API gateway, so click on actions and deploy API, and deploy, choose your stage for deploying. So the changes has been deployed, and if I refresh this API, this will work. Yeah, it takes minimal time to reflect the changes. Yeah, as you can see, the changes has been reflected and API is working. Now copy this endpoint and paste it over here. This would also work. Yes, this is also working. Actually currently I have make changes, so it takes time to reflecting the things. Now it will work every time. And I have make another service, so here that is you can copy this, you can copy the same endpoint, and for billing service you need to only make changes on dev login service to billing. This endpoint will not work because this path is not existing in my billing service. So for billing service, choose this path and paste it over here, and this should work with that. Yes, as you can see, in dev environment the billing service is also working. Now if you have multiple environments, then you can deploy your projects in multiple environments. And I'm deploying this. Here is a dev environment, as you can see. Go to resource part, and at the time deploy, click on deploy API, and choose new stage for creating a new stage, that is alpha. Okay, and stage description alpha environment. Now deploy it. Here you can see this alpha stage is also created, but this alpha endpoint will not work. I will tell you why it will not work. So here change this dev to alpha in this endpoint. The same route will be work also for the alpha environment, alpha stage. So now this route will not work. It is going forbidden. We have created stage, so we have to deploy this also. So I am deploying it. After deployment it will not work because I have used in integration part stage variables, but I have not created stage variables for alpha environment. So first we have to create stage variables for alpha environment also. Go to dev stage variables. We have to create both this billing service URL and login service base URL in alpha environment also. So open another tab for alpha environment. Go to stage variables. Here you can see there is no stage variable for alpha environment. For this we have to create a stage variable. Copy, as we have a single endpoint for both the environment, that's why I'm using the same environments. If you have a different IP and host or any domain, then you can put over here as per your requirement. Copy this host and port in alpha environment also. Add another stage for login service. Now I have to deploy this again. Go to resource, action, deploy API, and click on alpha. Now the API is deployed in alpha environment, and now refreshing this alpha endpoint. This will take time. After making changes, it will take a few seconds to reflect the changes. Now as you can see, this alpha environment endpoint is also working. If I change this route of billing service active country to FAQ category, all FAQ category, this should also work. Yes, now I'm checking the login service for alpha environment, and this route will not work because this all FAQ category is for not existing in login service. So copy this v1 register IP, this you can see I have created for 2 microservices, and I have also created 2 environments for each of the services, billing service and login service, and all your routes will be work on all your stage environments, that is dev and alpha. You don't have need to create another routes for alpha environment. If you have create route in these resources, these stages is for stage, and here is in resource there are different routes. For these all routes will be work in all your stages. In stages there are more functionalities. You go to the dev stage, you can logs your routes, how it is working, that cloud you can enable here. Cloud watch logs, that is errors only you want to see, errors and info logs, full request and response log, that you can enable it from here. And if you want to see the access, enable access logging, you can check it from here to watch the logs. There are more functionalities for this side. You can go to settings, enable API cache, enable throttling, and web ACL. Too much features in REST API protocol of AWS API gateway. And one thing I want to tell you, that if you want to upload any binary files to your server, then you must go to the settings of your API settings, and you have to provide here add binary media type. Here you have to provide multi-part form data. You have to provide multi-part form data and make save changes. If you have provide this multi-part form data here, then only you can upload binary files to your server using AWS API gateway. If you have not provided multi-part form data, then you cannot upload binary files. So this is our API gateway tutorial for you, and I hope you got the things how you can configure create API gateway for your project and use this on your project. So if you like this video, please like, share and subscribe. And if you want any more concepts using on AWS, then please comment it out so I can make a video and upload it to YouTube. Thank you so much.